Installing Ubuntu. How to configure UEFI and BIOS. Imagine turning on your computer and wondering if it will start up smoothly or get stuck. The secret often lies in how your firmware settings are configured. Today, we are going to look at how to set up your computer for installing Ubuntu by configuring UEFI and BIOS. These are the two main types of firmware interfaces that control how your system boots up. UEFI, or Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, is the modern replacement for the traditional BIOS, or Basic Input-Output System. UEFI offers faster boot times, support for larger hard drives, and security features like Secure Boot. BIOS is the older system, which initializes hardware during startup but lacks many of the advanced features of UEFI. Most computers made after 2011 support both UEFI and BIOS modes, but the options and terminology can vary depending on the manufacturer. For example, some systems call BIOS Compatibility Mode, Legacy, or Compatibility Support Module. To start, you need to access your firmware setup. Restart your computer and press a specific key during startup, often F2, F10, F12, delete, or ESC. This key varies by manufacturer, so check your device's manual if needed. Once inside the firmware setup, look for the boot mode settings. These are usually under a tab called Boot or Boot Order. Here, you can select either UEFI or Legacy or CSM, which stands for Compatibility Support Module. Some systems even offer a combined mode that tries UEFI first and then falls back to Legacy if needed. Next, you want to prepare your installation media. Create a bootable USB drive with the Ubuntu ISO file. When creating the USB, make sure it supports UEFI booting if you plan to use UEFI mode. When you boot from this USB, your system will give you options to choose the boot mode. Select the option that matches your firmware setting, either UEFI or Legacy. The Ubuntu installer will then proceed accordingly. Partitioning is an important step. For UEFI mode, your disk needs an EFI System Partition, which is a small fat 30 to partition usually around 100 to 500 megabytes. This partition stores bootloaders and is essential for UEFI booting. For BIOS mode, the system uses a master boot record partition scheme, which does not requiring an EFI partition. Ubuntu's installer can automatically create these partitions if you choose the default options. If your system uses Secure Boot, which is a UEFI feature that prevents unauthorized operating systems from booting, Ubuntu generally supports Secure Boot. However, if you encounter issues during installation, you might need to temporarily disable Secure Boot in your firmware settings. After installing Ubuntu, ensure your firmware is set to boot in the same mode you used for installation. Mixing modes, like installing in UEFI but booting in Legacy, can cause boot problems. Choosing UEFI mode offers advantages like faster startup and better security, making it the preferred option for modern computers. BIOS mode still works well for older hardware or specific multi-boot setups. To sum up, configuring your firmware correctly involves setting the boot mode to match your installation media, preparing the USB accordingly, and maintaining consistent settings after installation. This way, Ubuntu will run smoothly and take full advantage of your system's capabilities.